Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today brought to you, that includes Craig Button standing by, brought to you by the Waddling Dog. Their 50-seat patio is open 7 days a week with a new menu coming soon featuring the Donnie and Dolly cocktail. Swing by their attached liquor store to pick up your Donnie and Dolly swag. There are countless reasons to come, sit, and stay at the Waddling Dog. As we're joined now by TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this. How are you, sir?
I am really, really well. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah. July 4th. We're talking a lot about American Independence Day and the greatest American player in Canucks history and Nathan's hot dog eating contest, which apparently was postponed, is now back on. But enough of that, Craig. We haven't talked to you since last Tuesday, and so much has happened.
Yeah.
Free agency, the NHL draft. Let's start with what the Canucks have been up to over the last couple of days. I want to get your opinion of the three NHL veterans the Canucks signed on the weekend. Ian Cole, Carson Soucy, and Teddy Bluger. Are they going to help?
Well, Rick Tocchet is really emphasizing, being better defensively, being better, and maybe not better is not the right word here, but being more competitive defensively. Certainly Carson Soucy and Ian Cole help you to be more competitive defensively. They have a real focus on detail. They play with some weight and they play with some real vim and vigor, and I think that helps any team. They drafted a couple of. In the first two rounds of the NHL draft, they drafted a couple of defensemen in Wielander and Brushetowicz, and those guys are 2-3 years away at the very best, and you just have to be patient with that. But when you're trying to improve competitively, you need competitive players. That's what Soucy and Cole are. So does that help Rick Tocchet? Does that help the blue line? Yeah, it does. But there's still a gap, in my view, between Roenick and Quinn Hughes and then that next group of defensemen. And does it ease some of the burden on a Tyler Myers? Yeah, you would think so. So, by adding a little bit more competitiveness, but sometimes you can only, improve, incrementally. Like we all have an ideal box of what it would look like. I have an ideal box. I can look at it and say, hey, listen, they're still lacking some really good, 3-4 second pair defensemen. And that's okay, but sometimes they don't become available. But these players will help. I think for me, will it be enough? When you look at the conference, when you look at the division, and you look at LA, and you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, and you look at the Edmonton Oilers, and you look at the Seattle Kraken, I haven't even mentioned the Calgary Flames yet. Mm-hmm. And so now this is where the battle ensues to try to find a way to get into the playoffs. I still think it's a tough road for the Vancouver Canucks, despite improving in the defensive competitive area. Teddy Bluger, to me, is a fourth-line center. They're going to ask him to play a little bit more minutes, play up the lineup, and that's okay. Again, for what they paid Teddy Bluger, what he's able to do, I think Rick Tocchet, who knows him from his Pittsburgh days, can be able to spot him in and knows what he's getting in Teddy Bluger. I think a lot of times when you have a coach who knows a player, and certainly they know Ian Cole too, Jim Rutherford does as well, and Patrick Alvin, I think it helps you just have a little bit greater comfort level with how you're going to use the players. And you're always trying to help your coach, and I think Rick Tocchet knowing how to use those guys will benefit him and the team.
Craig, let's go back to the draft. The Canucks, Wielander, but their first three picks were all defensemen. 4 out of 7 were D, so obviously that was the focus, to get defensemen in the pipeline. But the big question out here, Craig, is always going to be for a while, is Wielander, and they passed on the local kid, Benson. Do you worry about that, or should you say no? Here he was at 11, here's our guy, we took him.
Listen, if it's just about local guys, then just take the local guys. Every team should take a local guy. Zach Benson's a really good player. I don't think the Vancouver Canucks, looking to try to bolster their, as you mentioned, Rick, trying to bolster their prospect covered with defensemen. The only way you get those good defensemen is by drafting them. And to me, as good as Zach Benson is, Tom Wielander to me is the top pair defenseman, and I think he'll find his way to that level. And when you have that opportunity to add that player, you can hope and try to get a guy in the second or third round. That's fine. But to me, Wielander is a player that absolutely fits for what the Vancouver Canucks are doing. And there's no discernible difference in terms of what I project as a top pair defenseman and Zach Benson. I think Zach Benson is going to be a really good NHL player. But I think for what the Vancouver Canucks were looking at and comparable, what I would call comparable, projections and what they can do for an NHL team, I think the Vancouver Canucks taking Wielander was very prudent and very wise.
Craig, I got to get your opinion on Toronto. You add Bertuzzi, Domi, Ryan Reeves. There's a message there. You're going to be a whole lot harder to play against. But your thoughts on those three guys ending up in Toronto?
Well, Michael Bunting wasn't easy to play against. Ryan O'Reilly wasn't easy to play against. Noel Acciari wasn't easy to play against. There's a couple of things. So those players went out. Brad Treliving comes in, and, the mandate is to change some things and try to affect a positive outcome once the playoffs begin. Tyler Bertuzzi has been a solid player. He slipped a little bit the last couple of years, had a rebound in the playoffs, and I think playing with good players in Toronto will help him be productive. Max Domi, thrilled to be in Toronto. I think as a third-line center, he gives them some more skill in that area, some more scoring that will take some of the pressures off of the top players. And, he can also absolutely help on the power play. Ryan Reeves is what Ryan Reeves is. He's got energy, he's got a personality. And we can look at him and say 36 years of age and 3 years, whatever. That's what they decided to do. Where I don't buy in is that adding Ryan Reeves, helps, Marner and Matthews and Nylander and Tavares be tougher in the playoffs and keep the flies away. I don't buy that narrative. I think it's an old and tired narrative. If you want Ryan Reeves to come in and play on your fourth line and add some weight and, add some, some physical ability, that's fine. But if you're adding him to try to so-called toughen up 34, 16, 88, and 91, the Toronto Maple Leafs have way bigger problems than they even realize. And I don't think those guys have any need to toughen up. And I don't think Ryan Reeves, adding him, will do that. Because at the end of it all, those are the guys that have to do it. Those are the guys that I think can do it. The surrounding cast is what Brad Treliving is trying to do, bolster the blue line. He added John Klingberg. I don't think he's done there. But this isn't about the regular season. This is going to be a good regular season team. The question is, can they have success come playoff time? And I think that's what Brad Treliving is looking at with the exodus of some of the players. But ultimately, it comes down, I think, to being bigger and stronger on the blue line and having more depth deeper down the lineup with respect to speed and some scoring. I think Max Domi helps that. I think John Klingberg helps that. Like I said, on the blue line, I don't think Brad's done. He needs to get bigger and stronger on the blue line. But, again, they signed Wayne Simmons a couple years ago to so-called, keep the flies away. The bottom line is those players give you everything they got, him and Ryan Reeves. Those other players, it's up to them. And I don't think they need toughening up. I just think they need a little bit more support in and around them.
Craig, we get a little bit late getting to you. Just want to say thanks for everything. And you've not only been with us this past year, but since the beginning of this show back in 2021. We can't thank you enough. Have a great summer.
I can't thank you guys enough. I look forward to every single Tuesday. You guys are wired in. You're so passionate, and it's absolutely my thrill and honor to be part of your show. So thank you, and you guys have a great summer.
Yeah, you too, Craig, and we'll talk to you in September. Thanks so much.
Thanks.